I think we have the best job in the world.
I know you have a big passion for data. Why do you have this passion for data, and what does it do to the success of your company?
In a playful way, I always say I have no feelings. Trying to create a culture where data is basically the first question of what we do.
What got into you that put you on the path to become the CEO of a very successful large DSO?
You have to thrive, you have to have a passion for what you do. You have to actually believe what I'm saying, that this is the best job in the world.
Welcome to Pro Talk. Welcome to the Pulse of Dentistry. Today, together with my co-host George, we are very happy to welcome Dr. Eirik Salvesen from Norway. Welcome, Eirik.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Pleasure to have you. And if you ever wondered, how can I scale something meaningful? If you lead a big team, if you lead a practice, and if you want to learn about how to scale from being a solo clinician in a single practice to a scaled DSO, being the CEO of a successful DSO in Northern Europe, then this is the podcast you don't want to miss. So, Eirik, great to have you. I think you have a lot of experience and inspirations that you can share on this topic. Looking forward to this. But first, who is Eirik Salvesen in 1 minute?
Yeah, that's a good question. Who am I? I'm a dentist by origin, by training. I'm also a father of 2 children. I'm a husband. Norwegian being for sure. Largest hobby I have is actually wine, which is outside of dentistry, but still a hobby that I actually do. I do run a wine bar as a hobby, which is besides dentistry. Okay. So that's an important picture of who I am. And I share my clinical time, or my time I share between being clinical and then also leading the company as the CEO of Oris Dental in then what you call Northern Europe, which I call then the Nordics, which is Norway, Sweden, and Denmark at the moment. And happy to do so. It's been dentistry has been a big part of my life since 26 years old back. So that's basically sums up quite easy what I'm doing.
Okay.
I had the chance to be in that wine bar, and I can say it's a magical place. So I understand your passion that you have for that. Eirik, to start, let's go back to the beginning. So you could have lived a comfortable, nice life in beautiful Norway, just being a single practice owner. But then something obviously happened. What got into you that put you on the path to become the CEO of a very successful large DSO?
Well, first of all, I'm still comfortable. So that needs to be good. Taken into account. I love my life. I love my work. I've been, I think we have the best job in the world, basically. Being in dentistry is the best job in the world. Happy patients, autonomy, ability to balance work life and your family life is in there. So, and also the ability to change people's quality of life. I mean, it's all in that mix. So it doesn't matter if you are a solo clinician or heading a DSO, you still have the same focus on making these small ambitious goals in this. It needs to be corrected a bit. I was never a solo clinician in a small practice. I started my work 26 years ago now as a dentist in a group practice already at that time with what I would call in 1999 quite visionary colleagues that actually went together, started what was at that time a large clinic. I had 10 treatment rooms and we were expanding through this one. And that kind of stimulated me that we will never be satisfied by what we do today because we can always go better and we can always increase the size of what we offer. If you do that, you will basically automatically scale just by default because patients and your employees, your colleagues will still be happy because you have the same focus that you want to improve all the time. You want to improve the patient journey and you want to make sure that everybody around you is happy. So there's no easy answer to the question, how do you go from being single one to leading a DSO? But several sliding doors has opened and shut at the right time, making some things happening that just made it possible to move in that position, and that's basically where I am today. So there's no easy answer, but you have to thrive. You have to have a passion for what you do. You have to actually believe what I'm saying, that this is the best job in the world.
What inspired you to found an Oris Dental and to scale? Was there a moment where you thought, wow, that's the idea I want to follow?
I think it's a maturation of 15, 16 years of working in a larger practice where I was part of developing it, creating an academy, creating a patient journey, creating a learning path for everybody that was involved, moving from one floor of the practice to 2 floors of the practice to 3 floors of the practice, and then ending up that you don't have room for everybody, so you build another one to make sure that everybody gets room. So it's a developing. It's nothing that it doesn't happen like this.
So, but would you say you had a scalable model already that you?
No, not at all. I mean, most people in this industry, and most people in this industry are like me, they're dentists. We have an idea that what we are doing is so brilliant that we can always scale it. The limitation comes to everybody if you believe that you as a person can personally scale it, because your hands are only at one place at a time. Your head is only at one place at a time. So this is the biggest misunderstanding I see in dentistry, is that if you're running a great practice,
you can just multiply.
Yeah, because I can just put up more of them.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
But you're still yourself. So how do you actually scale it? How do you pass on the knowledge? How do you develop mini-me's of yourself? How do you create a culture in this? So no, it's not something that comes from just being a successful clinician, no matter what you are. And this is, to me, one of the biggest mistakes I see in dentistry, misunderstandings that I see in dentistry. We still believe that just being a good clinician, just running one good clinic, is the opening door to scale.
Today, Oris has around about 100 clinics, a bit more than 100 clinics in the countries that you mentioned. How would you describe its structure that you have in this DSO, and how do you personally stay connected to what happens in the clinics?
Yeah, but it's as again, we're more than 140 sites now, so it's getting north of 100, and we are how to put it, the geography of where we stay is there's quite long distances. So from the northern part of Norway to the southern part of Norway, if you're going to drive, it's going to take you a couple of days to get there. So it's not connectivity that's easy. So making sure you stay in connection with them is by building an organization to make sure they are connected to the organization. So whenever people think that you can do it by yourself, you will never be successful. Whenever dentists think that we could do it just by being dentists around building a DSO, we're never going to make it. We have to include people that actually has a knowledge in other areas, that what I would call the band around. We have a lot of rock stars, which we call the dentists. And around that rock star, there will be a lot of band, there will be a support organization, there will be a tour manager, there will be everybody around. That's what we are doing around dentists. We're trying to make sure they keep on being rock stars, but we build the organization around. That organization is the organization that I can stay in touch with. And through all these things, through the leadership that's local, always a lead dentist, always a clinic manager. They need to have the responsibility and the ownership of that clinic, because that clinic is most often different from the other clinics. They have something they do in their geography that's very special. They keep in contact with patients on a very specific level. They need to be in ownership of that clinic. If you think you put them into like one size fits all, then I think you miss.
So your expectation is not to create these mini-me's in these local heroes. So you want them to stay also who they are and do their job as they, would also or have been doing in the past, which made them successful before they joined, let's say, the network.
I think that's an extremely precise point of what we're doing. I mean, if we ever acquire a clinic and a clinician that we would like to join our DSO, it's because we believe that what they have been doing is a good job and a successful job, and they've been creating a culture and a patient experience that is, you fit with us, you can have our team shirt. We're not trying to make everybody do the same, because it is different. In the whole part of Norway, between Sweden, between Denmark, there's differences. and you have to play upon the strength that they have and make sure that they align on the backside on the system level of what we need in quality systems, in HR system, in financial system, in academy training. We can do that. But towards the patient, they have something they created there.
Would you say this is the biggest differentiator you also have relative to other DSOs in your area, or is there any other differentiator you would mention?
It's a good question again, because differentiators are most easy to see when you look upon them from the outside. But what I would see from our perspective is that we are very concerned or focused on the autonomy that is within the clinic. This specific leadership of a lead dentist and a clinic manager, they know how they would act in this clinic if they have an ownership to what they do. And if you once again you try to fit them into like one size fits all, you're gonna destroy the ownership of this. You're gonna destroy the thrive of what they want to do and the development. Once you ask people, they agree with me. They have the best job in the world. They have the best job if they can be themselves. They should be able to be themselves. That's the whole point of what we are doing. So instead of having a centralized, top-down way of controlling clinics and clinicians, we instead encourage the local leadership on each clinic and make sure that we have control in the background to all the regulatory issues, to make sure that IT systems are working, to make sure we do everything good in compliance and governance, so that every of these rock stars that we have, and they are rock stars. That's why we attacked them the first time. They are real rock stars. That's why we go for them and say, hey, do you want to join our team? They should be able to spend more time being a rock star. And dentists in general, they are the most peak of their rock star performance when they are with patients.
Let's talk a little bit about leadership, because I think that influences a lot on how you actually build up your team and how you select your rock stars, because I believe you still need to have a certain foundation, a common understanding of, what good leadership is. What is good leadership to you, Eirik?
Good leadership is basically, to me, all about passion. I think if you're just driving by and being asked to do a task, you will do it with half the passion, as if you have the real interest in what we're actually creating as the why of what we're doing. And creating real leadership and making sure it's sustainable, not just by me or the mini-me and my colleagues and my co-founders and stuff, is by creating a culture that has some points where we never go beyond. I mean, we know where we are aiming for. And leadership to me is realizing that you're not the only brain force in the company. Most likely, there will be people that knows so much more than you on specific topics that if, once again, we go back to dentistry, where I have my origin, where I have all my experience from, and I meet a lot of dentists from all over the globe, and the same thing comes to me all the time. We're a group of educated persons that have an idea. We actually think we know quite a lot about different areas of this business that we don't know. But this is to me where we should be very honest with ourselves and say, hey, I don't know too much about HR. I've trained as a dentist. I don't know too much about cybersecurity. I'm trained as a dentist. I don't know too much about finance and scalable finance and systems in the background, because I was trained as a dentist. So if we go into the leadership part, it's building a team. It's making sure you're honest enough to say, I'm not the best in this. I need a bigger team to create that. And once you get these people, there's the second part of the culture. So creating the team and realizing you can't do it by yourself is the one leadership point. The second one is making everybody aware of the big point of what we're doing. Where is our value created? Where's the actual thing that creates value in the company being created? Is it being created by the support staff, the tour manager, and everybody around? No, it's being created at the time with the patient in the chair, where there's a treatment team in the room. That's the only place we create value. The rest is supportive staff. So the balance between getting dentists to realize that they need support to make sure they can be the biggest rock stars. And then also for the support ones to realize that we have rock stars in the room. So whatever we can do will create them the best, and they will create value return for us.
It sounds a bit like a contradiction, because typically a rock star is not someone that is known to be very humble and understanding that, okay, I can't be the rowdy at the same time and carry my stuff. So they expect, the things just to fall in place. So how do you manage those kind of, I would say, ambiguity? You want rock stars because they create the value with the patient. At the same time, you want them to also understand that, they need to be team players. To me, it's still a bit of a contradiction.
No, but it is a contradiction. I mean, and it's a contradiction in terms by just being a dentist, because they want to do all this. But again, there's bands, and we even made Live Aid and Band Aid work with big egos. So it's
a lot of big egos.
Yeah, it worked in the end. And I think this is where we play it the right way. I mean, we get people on board that realizes that they're never going to be the great rock stars if they're not also taking care of the band. If they're not realizing that they're playing together with somebody, that they are a part of the team. So the one thing we never negotiate on is you are a team player. That's the only thing we put. But we want to keep people that has this ability to make patients feel good, that are able to perform the treatment in that high level that they're doing, but they still are team players. The only way you can avoid having the egos that won't be a team player is making sure that you recruit, or us as a buy and build company, you don't buy people that you have a feeling of not being a team player. Said shortly, and which my team and my organization knows, and not sure if the words are allowed, but don't buy assholes.
I feel at this point we also have to speak about culture, because you define pretty much also a bit what your culture is. Can you be a bit more specific? What is the culture you would like to create in Oris? And we already realized there's one non-negotiable, that is you have to be a team player, not negotiable. Are there any others?
Well, there's a lot of small specifics on the culture within Oris. Everything defined by the normal set of putting up values. You have your internal values, you have your external values. It doesn't matter if you don't live the values, if you don't live the culture, if you're not the person that actually does what is described of how we put ourselves. So we've spent a lot of time defining our DNA. So what is our DNA? How do we act on our DNA? And I think that is the biggest culture building block that we have, is that this is how Oris is perceived internally in the professional community, externally by our customers or patients, and also by our supporting industry, the partners that we work together with. We've defined how we're going to look, and we work upon that as a program. Everything from the management meetings to our yearly summit meetings, where we gather all the clinic managers, the lead dentists, the management, the academy, everybody together, through our back-end business arrangements to our smaller things in the clinics, is all based on the same culture. And it needs to dribble down all the time. And we have to, as the leaders of the company, make sure we always stay aligned with that culture we defined. And the culture is defined by team play. It's defined by the interest of the patient's best, this curiosity of how we can actually do the best thing we can do. It's aligned by being honest enough with each other to also put out if I tell you something that I want you to change, it's because I want you well. It's not because I want to be bad with you, but because I love you, and that's why I'm giving you some correctional advices. And I think this culture built around trust is the best way you can actually build a culture. It's still the most challenging one, but I think we've shown now since 9 years ago. We have a 10 years anniversary next year, but we've shown that it's possible to keep people in this culture because you actually care and because you live what you say.
Is there one central statement that would unite all your employees, like a purpose statement that everybody's looking at?
It's in Norwegian, so
yeah, it's in Norwegian.
You can translate it.
Translate it. No. I mean, it's improving the quality of life of patient. I mean, this is the wide thing we have. I mean, everybody knows that the magic happens in the treatment room where we take care of our patients. But we also redefine the treatment room as the whole 360 degrees patient journey, not only in the treatment room, before you visit us, when you find us, how you read upon us, how you connect with us, digital availability, information pre-visit, on-site visit and experience, post-visit experience and follow-up, and the whole 360. That's basically what we say. So there's a whole patient experience that is more than just in the treatment room. So being able to define it goes into increasing the quality of life for the patients, and also the thing that we've said, which is, I think, a very important thing. We're trying to define. We're trying to define the dentistry on the terms of the patient. Meaning that we are trying to adapt what is important to a patient when they choose us.
How do you align, let's say, personal ambitions and interests of your employees with the culture and the greater good of the company? Because I imagine you have a lot of talent as well that would like to progress.
Well, there's many things in this one. First of all, it comes into talent recruitment. So to us, talent recruitment is finding the right people, having a systematic way of recruiting people based on our value and our culture. So everything around an interview, everything around being qualified goes into the same values. It doesn't. We're not looking for extreme clinical talent, which isn't a team player. Because you will find that
compromising on the team player.
We're not compromising on team player, because then everything is gone.
Yeah.
It will fall apart if you're not a team. If you can't share. That's basically where we would do our best, by being very non-negotiable on being a team player. So I think this is the short answer to your question, and I think it's a very critical one.
You're a very dentist-centric organization, and the culture is very dentist-centric. Now, critics might say, well, your major shareholder is private equity, and aren't you sometimes under pressure to prioritize business over patients? And how do you manage these different interests that might come from your shareholders versus your very dentist-centric culture?
We're lucky enough to have private equity on our team that is supportive to the idea of what we're actually doing. The whole strategy of putting dentists in like this, the dentist-centric culture. So that's not under pressure. Everybody that is a shareholder in the company, meaning private equity, and all our dentists that are also, many of them are shareholders like us in management, we still have the same idea. We think that good dentistry, good autonomy, good patient care creates good business. We haven't yet seen the other way around. In the whole world, we haven't seen that good business necessarily creates the quality of care out in the clinics. And being sustainable always starts with the core of what you do. We're not creating value in the organization behind. We're creating value out in that specific meeting, patient in chair meeting. That's basically where we create value. So if we keep on, and as we've been doing now for our period, being very concise about what we focus on, then good business comes by default, by being specific, because you retain people, you retain patients. You make sure there's there's a professional career ladder that you can go. You come in as a talent, you get to do your stuff, you have our academy in the background that will support you and mentor you and develop you to the next stage. You can go on from being a junior dentist to going on to being a senior, going on to be a lead dentist, moving on to a clinical advisory board, maybe being in the academy in this one. And a lot of these people that work with us, even if they're not dentists, they've gone the same way in the organization. A good nurse has been a clinic manager has been an area manager, an area manager now working in the group management. So it's all about creating opportunities, which you are limited on if you have a single office.
Definitty. So I mean,
it's going to hit the roof.
No, there is not. It's not so easy for a single practice. Yeah,
so and again, I think it's to young dentists that will come into our organization. They have an interest of being as good professionals as they can be, because that's the interest of what they want to do. That they want to create a career ladder on the professional part. How do you do that? Well, normally you will go to educational activities through Straumann or other partners or something. But what what is most important is that you need some mentoring locally. You need somebody that has your back. So coming into a practice, you need somebody that has your back if you're doing a difficult extraction of a tooth. You're going to go on to that because you know you have a backing. And that's the team culture that we are so proud of, and also so concerned that we are maintaining and making sure we get the right people.
Maybe coming back a bit to this question before regarding, who owns the company. I'm pretty sure that there are, Eirik, some very difficult discussions that you also have to have with the key stakeholders that lend you the money, basically for the growth. So can you make an example of one of the discussions or that you had where maybe clinical performance won over business KPIs?
It wins all the time.
It wins all the time. It sounds very easy.
Yeah, I know it sounds easy, but wins all the time. No, I mean, honestly. We know that there are backbone of our structure that's very important. You can't do this without a solid background, solid structure, a solid system, a solid way of keeping things scalable, sustainable, shareable, all that. Because we started this one by talking about the misunderstandings of dentistry. You run a good practice and then you think you can just scale it. Doesn't work like that. You have to have the systems in the background.
And that costs money. And
it does cost
money. Finance
so you need to invest in it. Yeah. But by investing in specifically strategical areas that make sense both to business and also to clinician, and making sure that clinicians in general are also informed of why we are moving this way. If we have anything happening that we want to invest in, like a new HR system, to many people sounds like, the most boring thing. What's this? Why do we do that? Yeah, because when we can do the governance that we need to do, making sure everybody's well taken care of. Everything's done according to any regulations. And we also have control. We got data of that. We can make every statistics that we can because we do it as a common thing in the whole part of our organization. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and whatever country. So I think this understanding the value of the background is important. But again, if we have the difficult discussions, they come. You report on finance, you report on numbers, but we don't only report on numbers revenue-wise. We don't only report on numbers on earnings-wise. We report on patient satisfaction-wise. We report on employer net promoter score, and we report on our carbon emission footprint. And we report on our CSRD report. I mean, all these things.
It's like a large company, yeah?
Yeah, it's a large company. Come on, it's created near 2,000 people in the organization. It has a high revenue, so it means it will be a part of every governance things. But this is also what a board and what actual stakeholders will look for. They want all this to be in place, not only the earnings, because it's never going to be sustainable. So if you invest in something and you don't care about patient satisfaction, you don't care about employer satisfaction, you don't care about governance, but your earnings, there you go. It's going to go like what we've seen in dentistry, in DSOs, in many markets. We've seen a rapid growth and a quite quick fall. But because it's all, everybody, and this is my statement that could always be said, everybody can buy another clinic. You can start from wherever you want in the world, and you can buy a dental clinic, and you can probably buy 10, as long as you have enough money. Everybody's going to sell it for enough money, they will sell. Can you run it? Can you make it sustainable? Can you organically grow it? Or you just spend too much money, too little systems, and then try to make the earnings maximized on a short-term perspective.
For our listeners, I think there are two topics that we should also touch. For you, they come very natural. The first one, I would start with data, and digital is the second one. I know you have a big passion for data, and I think it's a topic that is largely underestimated, even in our company, to be honest, but even more probably in private practices. Why do you have this passion for data, and what does it do to the success of your company?
Well, I'm in a playful way, I always say I have no feelings. Very often stated in my company or our company is that I have no feelings, which people will misunderstand. But we use it as a playful tone of saying, because I don't care about that. Because you can't feel up to a decision. You actually have to have something that provides me the evidence of what we do. And not all things can be summarized in data. A lot of more things that dentistry thinks can actually be summarized. So getting these data has been one of the biggest things for me since I took on the role as the CEO, has been trying to create a culture where data is basically the first question of what we do. In all meetings, I mean, there comes a proposal, we're going to do this, and I would say, what does the data says? What is it saying? Do we have any? No, we have trouble of getting it because it's not clean, because the data gets from different sources. It gets from using a journaling system with one code and somebody's doing another one. So in developing a DSO or creating a more mature DSO, you think about how do you create systems that provides you with clean data. And I think that's a company growth thing for everybody, not only in dentistry, but to us. Once again, going back to an HR system or going back to a financial system or a patient management system, ERP systems and all of this, once you start leveling on the potential of having then common cross borders, then you start getting real data. And then you can actually make sure that you can differentiate your decision-making by having clear data.
And I think it starts with asking the right questions, right? The right questions which lead to what is success critical to the company, right? And then, putting the data behind. I think you're a really good example. I remember when we spoke about the Straumann registry, you've been really on fire on this because you saw the potential what a system like this could do to your clinic network.
Yeah, I think this is once again maybe the second misunderstanding in dentistry. First one is being able to scale everything. Yeah, okay. I think the second one is we have a lot of data. Yeah. That's the statement I hear in dentistry. I say, yeah, we have all the journals and the records and the X-ray of patients. I said, well, they're not structured data. You can compile them to anything.
Yeah, make sense out of them.
Yeah, how do you make that? Well, you can go through all journaling stuff and you can make some statistics, but they're not structured, they're not analyzed, they're not put into a system. That's why when the registry came up as a discussion 5, 6, 7 years ago, I don't remember anymore, it was a long time ago, I said, hey, that's a good idea. Let's make it, and let's make it into a platform which is easily accessible for people. In dentistry, like our professional peers, and make sure that it's easy flowable, and make sure that you get data so that you can act upon on your local clinic, or you have a DSO or whatever you have, but you can get data in a systematic way. And they need to be structured. They need to be connected. They need to be clean so that you can actually use them and don't always take like your precautions about drawing conclusions.
And that's a lot of work. I mean, to get to this point where you have structured data, I mean, for every organization and also for ours, it's a lot of work. But this is also a beautiful moment because it becomes so clear. Actually, it takes this power to do the right decisions, and that's very good. I remember when I visited you once, you showed me, your IO scanner usage dashboard, and I think it connected all the clinics that you had at that point in time, and you could basically go back to the individual dentist. What was the scan time for a specific indication or patient situation, and it was very instrumental for me to understand, for you, it was not about, pointing out the dentist that underperforms, but it's like the question, do we need a new scanner or do we need to train dentists, can then be answered. And I think that's a very powerful example.
It's the easy example.
Yeah.
You get to a clinic, most of these, the people that will be listening will have a clinic or a few clinic, and most of them will also have an intraoral scanner. And most of them will have colleagues that will ask, we need a new scanner because it's so busy, that scanner. And then being able to ask, what's your average scan time compared to what's the average utilization rate of the scanner? That makes sense. So either we train or we buy. And most often it's more cheap to train than buy. But again, this is this easy example, good example, but an easy example of decision making based on data.
Now you have to run digital clinical workflows on dozens of practices. And you also probably need to have a certain standardization that you can get structured data. So how do you scale digital workflows, and where do they usually fail?
Digital workflows, first of all, is a challenge in the wording, because what is actually full digital workflow? What do you use to do it? And I always say that everything starts with a scanner. Mm-hmm. So we're not discussing where to start the digital work, where you need an intraoral scanner. And I think standardizing that is, with us, has been, we actually have different scanners. We're okay dealing with different scanner systems as long as we can connect the data in the background. That's where we need to pick up our lake in the background. But scaling that is being very clear on what is the patient experience when it comes to digital. Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole thing on patient experience is, I always use the example, if you ever started doing intraoral scanning, I know we have a average penetration in the European markets on intraoral scanners. They definitely need to be higher. Mm-hmm. But if you go to any person that has been scanning for a period and you ask, did you ever have one patient that asked you if you can remove the scanner out of the mouth and put back that beautiful impression material that tastes so lovely and strengthens, hardens in 7 minutes? I would be very happy. It doesn't happen. Mm. And that's the way we have to start standardization. We have to ask, is it good? What would you do for your best patient? Yeah. Thank you. So digital workflow, digital technology, everything we invest in needs to have a meaningful impact to the patient experience. That's basically where we start our standardization.
Eirik, thanks a lot. That was a very interesting journey from your early days when I learned, you've been a clinician, you learned from some other clinicians, you scaled the practice, and then you moved it into a network of 140 clinics now, very successfully, but I'm sure there have also been learnings on the way. So I wonder, if you could meet the young version of yourself again, looking back maybe 20 years, what would be the 1 or 2 recommendations you would give the guy?
That's a big question. It's like looking back at your life and what would you teach your kids? I think, once again, the first thing I would tell, and I do tell, because this is not a theoretical approach. I do this basically every week because I meet young colleagues in our system. Mm. I'm lucky enough to work with young colleagues in our system as I'm doing my clinical work. And what I always say is, be happy about the position you chose. You chose to be a dentist. That is probably the greatest job in the world. Make sure you also appreciate it. That's the one thing, because if you're not calibrated on how good and fun and thriving and interesting and motivating this job is, it doesn't matter what I tell you. I can't tell you anything about a business mind if you don't really enjoy and have a passion. Coming back to passion again, about what we're actually running. So this passion needs to be the first thing. Second one is, make sure that you are always reflecting on what you can do, what your knowledge brings to you, as both on the professional level of what you can treat patients with, but also what you can create on the other end of it. Meaning, do you want to create a business for yourself, a big clinic, something? You need help. Mm-hmm. Honestly, you need help. Please don't do it by yourself. You need more people that knows about the other parts of running a bigger clinic or running a bigger business. You need help. So passion and honesty about your own limitations probably is the 2 things that I would choose. Okay,
thanks for sharing. I still remember vividly one of your presentations, you presenting the theory about the Mount Stupid.
Oh yeah, I'm very happy about that.
Coming back to this one, huh?
I do that. Oh no, I've even been lecturing today using this same illustration.
It's a very powerful,
strong one.
It's a very powerful.
It's so important. Thought. Yeah, and it's so important for everybody of us. We need to be realizing that very often we don't know enough to actually have a strong opinion on something. So always be a little bit gracious. You can have your passion on where you want to go, because that's a drive inside that we are going this way because this is something I believe in. But you also need to acknowledge very often that you don't know enough. And then this ever lifelong learner perspective is just making everybody's lives much better. I think it's good for everybody and the whole society and for countries and regions and everybody that, we should be more learners.
Life would be better, world would be better.
World would be better, for sure. So I think this, if we could, once again, passion and this honesty, humbleness, admitting that.
To combine that. Yeah. That's strong. Eirik, maybe... to close the circle, extending on Andreas, your question regarding advice to your younger self, would you still, let's say, go work in a private practice to start, or would you join a DSO right away if you would do it again? I see this. I mean, I don't see any difference between private practice and a DSO. We are trying to run it as a model of working in a private practice. I think in many instances, my first year running was in 1998, a summer. I was at the 4th year of my study. We were then allowed to work on what was called a temporary license. I agreed upon taking responsibility of an office of a colleague that was having some heart disease. I was alone at the office during summer. I was quite clear at that time, I'm never going to do that. That's not going to be my life. That's never going to be my life. I didn't have the available mentoring. I didn't have the available support staff. I didn't have the technology, the equipment. I didn't have anything around me. And I thought that was going to be a struggle. So to me, if you want to be the best professional, if you want to really be what is the biggest honorary title you can have in our DSO is nerd or geek or whatever you want to do. That's when you are. We only award that to people that really deserve it, and we're searching for nerds. So if you want to be that one, if you want to be really good at something, which also increases patient satisfaction, increases your earnings because you're doing more. So it's all good. Then let us take care of the backbone of that one and make sure that you can. If you want to run your own practice in the end, feel free. I mean, that's not a competition for us. I mean, there's a lot of great single practices out there, but they're probably not working just by themselves. And the culture of being a dentist and spouse, which used to be a part of our world, is gone because 80% of what comes out is going to be female dentists. So everything's changing. And that's why I say that come into a system, at least choose a clinic that has some mentorship for you. Making sure that you have support to do the right one. Making sure that you can actually get up that educational ladder. You don't have to have a big academy like we have, but at least have somebody that will support you through the journey. Have a chance to learn and to grow.
Eirik, we also have a question from the audience. We asked this through Instagram, and the question is not coming from us, as I said, from the audience, but it's related to us. It says, in building a large-scale DSO, dental organization, what made Straumann stand out as the right partner, and how important are high-quality products for you and for your success?
This feels like a Straumann employee posted that question.
Yeah, but it was not. I can guarantee you.
It's probably anonymous.
It's a good question. I like it because then I have to be, and this is the honesty that you are used to with me. We work with several implant companies in ours. Once again, going back to the autonomy. How we run clinics. We don't force clinicians and clinics that we acquire and get into our DSO to change well-functioning systems if it goes into implantology itself. We make sure that they have quality systems, the premium systems, but we still make them run them as they are used to. We make sure we have a deal with the company and make sure all that's good. So why did basically I choose Straumann? Because that's more of a thing, is that our company is still doing more Straumann than the other competitors. But I personally chose Straumann as a clinician also, because everything that happened within Straumann since the last, I would say, 10 years, I've been a Straumann user since 25 years, but I've also been using other systems as a period where Straumann was not inventing the product that I liked. But the last 10 years has been really impressive in what you produced on innovations. You've been strong on culture. You've kept people on board. I've met the same people through the journey for many years. That's very, very important to us. Consistency in the relationship. Otherwise, we always have to build up another relationship. We have to tell about the legacy. We have to go through all that. So to me, those are very important. On the solid building blocks is always premium quality, global player, all the best products that's in the world. It's all that, but that is like hygiene factors to me. Yeah. The other things are, to me, the longevity and the sustainability in your team, which I'm very impressed by. And for sure, if I was to add a small thing in this, is creating a culture in Oris has also been influenced and also stimulated and adapted to what I've seen in Straumann. I've seen so many good cultural initiatives in Straumann that I'm lucky enough that you have shared a lot of what you're doing in the company with me. So I've been able to also translate it into something that works on a minor company that we have compared to Straumann.
Yeah. Thanks for the feedback, Eirik, and I think that's something we are very happy to share, and a lot of the clinicians working with us know it's something that I think we can share, and to help others to be successful. And thanks for sharing all the insights. That was a very interesting conversation. And George, what stood out for you over the last 40 minutes? This is hard to summarize.
That's hard to summarize, so honestly. No, first of all, thanks a lot also, Eirik, from my side. It's such a pleasure to have a brilliant mind and such an authentic person, with us. And what stood out to me, let me start with the high-level learnings. I would say you came up with 2 misconceptions in dentistry that I think are very easy to remember. It's not easy to scale, so don't think you can just scale by doing the same over and over again. And we also had a conversation about, data is not structured data. So these are, I would say, two misconceptions that we can remember and that I fully agree to. Then we had a lot of discussions about Oris culture, and I think this is resonating very well also with our culture, as we came to the conclusion in the end that there are some similarities. I think, being very convinced about what you want to do, but still hold those opinions loosely so that you can learn and have the humility to also learn from other people, and the understanding that by yourself you cannot do it. I think this is a beautiful statement, or let's say takeaway that I have from your explanation of the Oris culture. Keeping the autonomy of the clinicians, taking the best that they have been doing, because you're choosing the rock stars, but you also choose them wisely because you only want those that actually are also playing as a team. I would say these are let's say the highlights for me. On top of everything, I think it's your conviction. You have such a passion to do the things that you're doing, and this is contagious. I think that's a very strong superpower that you're having, that your conviction is contagious to the people that you actually choose to work with, and that makes, I would say, Oris a very strong DSO.
I think the only thing I would add is leading with data and leading with the heart is not a contradiction. I think this is what you're proving, and this is very impressive. So thanks a lot, everybody, for listening in. I'm sure we didn't promise too much, that today was a great real-world learning example and a blueprint of, what to do if you want to scale bigger and to run a successful practice. So thanks a lot for sharing this. Look around for the next episodes to come around on all of the podcast players that you have. And please also answer the poll that we put out on the Straumann Global Instagram account today on what makes actually a great leader in dentistry in 2025. We are very curious to have your answers. And thanks for listening in. Looking forward to the next time. Thanks, guys, for the conversation today.